NOFC, No One Fucking Cares podcast, episode 17. To begin with, I am hosting another dog who Carm is rather scared of. Ray Hassan, a former New York State Police K9, young Scarlet. So if she comes in to play and bites Carm, that's only a plus because he's extremely scared of her as she sits on the other side of the camera. Episode 17 is flat tires, invites, or Carm wrote invitations.
Unvitations.
Invitations.
It's a joke. Yeah.
And neutral pathways. Oh, I know exactly what the joke is referencing, and we'll get into that. What happened? Well, so we're together finally.
Yeah. Hold on. Let
Seeing
me
you.
play something that's going to be a trademark violation. We're back in the digs.
Yes.
All right.
Great to see you, buddy. You too. Long 2 weeks. During this past week, when I came home, some stuff came in the mail I want to share, and someone gave a really cool suggestion. So patches, which I used to collect, but I was never big into. NYPD detective. I think that's backwards, but you'll get the point. NYPD mounted, and your typical NYPD patch. So the individual would like to remain anonymous, and they suggested that uh, listeners of the podcast mail in a patch from their department or special unit, and they can be displayed. So what I'll do is I'll put them on the wall here, and I'll show them if you guys want to do that. If you want to do that, you could do care of NOFC, and you could use the post office that I got for the podcast. It's P.O. Box 313 in Otisville, New York, and the zip code is 10963.
Care of Jason Ponzi Scheme Sedita.
Yeah, well, it's not really a scheme. It's just to showcase certain departments that may be watching us.
Right. No, I know that part. I meant the P.O. box and whatever you have set up with your little Ponzi scheme.
No, it's just I don't want shit coming.
Indictments will be handed down next week.
Yeah. Anyway, so what's up, bud?
Well, let's just start off by saying, what's a guy got to do to get a drink around this place? Where's the hors d'oeuvres, the cocktails?
Listen,
You said you're going to roll out the red carpet and make it, and here I am being terrorized by another retired member's dog who wants to bite my nutsack.
strategically planned, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
You get what you fucking get.
I walk in and the dog's like, right there.
She was slightly abrasive, but she means well. You're the only person that she's barked at.
She's your spirit animal, apparently.
Yeah.
Slightly abrasive.
Yeah, so I think because of the fact that I was away in Florida last week, and you, as always, have been super busy, the guests have been put on the back burner. I wasn't even going to do a podcast this week, but you convinced me last night, and I think it's going to actually be a pretty good one on what we're going to get into. It actually, after Carm we talked last night and we set the framework on his way here. I think it's going to be rather interesting. So, with that being said, the first topic we want to talk about is
was your trip to Florida.
My trip to Florida.
Yeah.
And it was great. I saw my stepdaughter Jocelyn and her fiance Daniel, and I helped them with a bunch of stuff down there in Florida, putting some ceiling fans in, cutting some trees down, and spent some good time. I was on the beach one day. That was more than enough for me. I know it was hot here, but when you get down in those parts, it's scary hot.
Pictures are beautiful, though. The beach is absolutely gorgeous.
It's one of that area between that and Destin has some of the nicest beaches around. And Jocelyn brought it up, actually. We went to, I think it was St. Petersburg a few years ago, and the sand was torched.
Yeah.
For some reason, some genius will probably tell me why, or probably knows why, but the sand down there, even though it was high 90s, it was comfortable to walk on, which is awkward. And the water was literally bath water. It was a good time. I spent about 2 hours.
Why was I'm a beach guy. I love beaches. So why were you only there one day? Why did you not want to go? Did you not want to go back another day, or you didn't have time?
No, I'm not. I don't like large bodies of water. I think we've discussed this before. I kind of get scared of anything. I went into the ocean, and then you could literally see where it drops off because it's the water's so clear. And there was a younger gentleman, probably in his early 40s, with his like infant child, two maybe one between 1 and 2,
Hmm.
toddlers, whatever. And he was going out, and like I was getting super nervous because he was like up to his chest with the
Hmm.
baby. I'm like, dude. Meanwhile, I'm barely at like
Right.
I barely let the
Right.
water touch my shorts. Pussy when it comes to the ocean. Tragically scarred from ocean.
Why? Let's discuss this. Why are you so
Well,
tragically scarred from the ocean? The viewers want to know this too. Why is the
I mean, I don't know how much they do want to know it, but she's done with her thing. She's gonna come over here in a second and fucking.
and I'm gonna maintain my defensive posture.
Oh, going back to I'm 50 now, so approximately 48 years ago, maybe 47 years ago, when I was 2 or 3. We used to do, wasn't every year, but we used to do family vacations to Cape Cod. Uh, we go to the beach slash bay there. Uh,
Did a shark touch you in your no-no place?
no, that would have been more interesting. It would have been much more interesting. No, completely opposite, but equally as scarring. It was, you see out of the movies, the beach was slammed with people. And I had made a friend, I don't know how, but somehow I made a friend at the beach being 2 or 3. And I remember specifically, I was wearing Cookie Monster bathing suits, bathing suit. Oh, you can't see it. This is Scarlett. Hold on a second. There she is.
Uh,
Come here, Scarlett.
uh,
Come here. Come here now. Come here, Scarlett.
Hi, Scarlett.
Come here, Scar. Hi, sweetheart. So this is Scarlett. Uh,
To be clear, I have an innie right now. It is inside my body.
oh, I love it. I love it. So yeah, I was wearing my Cookie Monster very non-manly bathing suit and playing with this young kid, same age as me or so. And I remember looking back, and I had no idea where my family was.
Hmm.
And I ended up getting lost at the beach.
Ow.
So at 2 or 3, I was lost at the beach, and it was for a few hours. I want to say 4 or 5 hours. I'm walking this beach. I have no clue where I am. And I remember bawling my eyes out when I would come to areas where there was no people or not enough people,
Hmm.
a lot of people. And then if I come across a group of people, I would stop and like, all right, I got to man up. I remember it like it was yesterday, and it was 48 years ago.
You have to man up as a 2-year-old?
I remember specifically thinking, like, stop crying. You're acting like a baby because I didn't want people to see me. I didn't even think
Because you were a baby.
I was. I know, but like, I don't know how my mind processed that. But that's one of the main things I remember is thinking to myself, don't cry if you see people. If you need to cry, wait until they're behind you. And it's really weird. So, surprisingly enough,
We have to talk to your mom about this.
yeah, it would be that would be an interesting episode. Surprisingly enough, my mom's father, my late grandfather, was the first one to find me, or the first one I came to. So yeah, that was quite traumatizing, and
Hmm.
that's one of the main reasons I don't like big bodies of water. The other is the fact that I'm a subpar swimmer. Let's just call it.
You are?
Yeah, yeah.
What?
I'm a doggy paddle at best, and it's a strictly panicking dog paddle. Like I'm panicking every second of the way. I may not look it externally, but inside my heart rate is a solid
You
170.
are like a human onion. The more layers you pull back, the more you want to cry. The more it like burns your eyes. You leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
So those long, skinny legs of yours in the water, I would think would be a really good benefit to your ability to swim. But you
no,
are,
no, it's because it's my big head. My big head weighs me down. It's not a buoy. It's a fucking. It's an anchor. It's a fucking anchor. I go in. It's like I my
you have a giant planetoid like skull. It
Jocelyn.
has its own gravitational pull.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've not heard that before. Thanks. That's unique and original.
I don't think you have a
It is.
giant
It's it's
skull.
it's it's. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it. But Jocelyn was we're at the beach, and she's just laying on her back and floating in the ocean. I'm like, you motherfucker. I just want to relax like that. She's so calm as the fucking calm as the other
Excuse
side of
me.
the pillow. Cool as the other side of the pillow. But anyway, so it was a great time. So I decided to drive down to Florida, And on the way down, I stayed in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I had a visitor, cockroach, cockroach in the fucking bathroom
On the way down.
on the way down. It was disgusting. I said something to the front desk, and they're like, "Well, you are in the South," so they didn't give a rat's ass,
No.
and it smelled bad. So we spent time down there, did some stuff with them. Went to tried red snapper.
Hold on. Let's back up.
Yes,
Let's
but
reel it back in. Back to the hotel room, Tennessee,
Knoxville.
Knoxville. What was the name of the hotel?
It was Best Western.
It was the Best Western.
Yeah.
So you would expect,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't go to Al's fucking stay and play where you could get in one night stays
yes,
and enjoy a good
you
time.
could order some prostitution and crack cocaine.
No, it was the Best Western.
So you'd expect that it'd be up to
It
standards.
was a
And
decent area, right off a highway. You know, it was somewhat industrialized, so I had a bunch of shit there.
so to anybody from Best Western, this was obviously just a freak occurrence.
Yeah.
Disrespect to your franchise.
Well, I mean, it happened. I'm not talking shit about it. It happened
Yeah,
there.
it happened.
I would have said the same thing if it was a fucking,
Yeah.
wherever it was. But anyway, so we go down there, had a good time. I drove, like I said, and then on the way back, I decided to drive straight through. It was a great idea, and it worked out well. It was just when I stopped back, the first stop I made was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. As I was getting off the exit, it was a busier exit. There's a group of cars getting off, and one of the cars kicked up a piece of debris.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to avoid it. But in doing so, that piece of debris hit my back passenger side tire and blew it out. So there I sit.
Leading to another Jason Sedita vehicular incident
Anomaly
of getting stuck temporarily, having to deal with a flat tire. So one of the discussion points today was, so how was your trip back? And there was a smiley face. So I wrote it and I sent it back to, you can't see it, but sent it back to Jay for his his response or some sort of review of what I had written, and he didn't really respond to it, which is unusual. And I was like, oh geez, I wonder if I pissed you off by asking you that question.
No,
Okay.
no, because I remember you saying, and anyway, it worked out fine. There was a Goodyear right off the exit that got me my tire. The original quote was 150 for the tire and 150 to get it repaired, like for somebody to come out and do it. I said, go fucking pound salt, because I know how much a tire is. It's 22-inch rim, so it is. I know it's going to be more expensive, and I got some decent tires on it. So, and then it cost me a little $400. So I saved half. Anyway, back on the road after 2 hours, and I made it home fine. So yeah, it was when I explained it to you after you checked in and I told you what happened. I know you didn't mean it this way, but you said you have the worst luck when it comes to vehicles or whatever, and I do. And
I just meant like breakdowns.
Yeah. I do. It sucked.
Yeah.
But again, it was one of those situations where it was right off an exit. It was
very lucky.
It was a busy exit. I was only off the road for 2 hours. Yeah, you have to. And this is something I think we're going to get into later in the episode is perspective and how you look at things and what drives your brain for certain processes. And I've done it a good portion of my life to where when a situation like that happens, you think doom or, gloom and like my life sucks. And this is why me. It does so much for you to flip that and view it as half full and be like, all right, well, look where I am. I got it done in 2 hours. It cost me a little bit of money, but I also saved money staying at Jocelyn's house and not having to pay. So like, it's fine. And like, if that $400 is going to make or break me, then I got bigger concerns than what my actual position is right then and there. So yeah, it was fine. It was a great trip.
That does lead into kind of later when we're going to discuss a little topic called neuroplasticity, which is, we're not scientists, but you'll come to understand kind of what we're getting at later. Do we discuss the
Absolutely. I do.
Okay.
Wait, I didn't see what you pointed to.
The unique sleepover in.
Oh, the lack of sleepover, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll mention this.
Mention it. I listen. Part of the podcast is transparency, right? Is telling people what we go through, and so before this trip took place, I reached out to a prior guest of ours that lives in the South Carolina area.
He's gonna be so happy that you're blowing his name up.
I'm not gonna say his name. I'm just gonna see if people can put two and two together. And
Well, let's see. Prior guest lives in South Carolina.
Is and his last name
Process of
his
elimination.
last name rhymes with Una or a cartoona.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I explained to him I'm heading down that way, and his first response was, "You have to stay here." We went over when I was going to be going down and when I expected to go back, and he said, "Well, probably on the way back would be a good idea." I'm like, "All right." So, my plans were to go back either Saturday or Sunday. Sunday, I texted him later in the afternoon that I'm probably not going to leave now until Monday or Tuesday. So I immediately, I swear to you, I formulate the text. I press the send button. Dude, if it was 3.5 seconds, that was a long time. My phone rings and he explains to me that he has a hair appointment, I guess. That I couldn't stay with him because he had to get his hair done. Meanwhile, he has the same hairstyle as me. So I'm not sure what that means, but yeah. So I was
He
uninvited.
did not say that.
No, he didn't say
Okay.
that. No. Like, wait a second. No, he didn't say that. That was my
Because that would
comical,
be an extra fuck
that
you.
would
I have a hair
that was
appointment.
my comical relief to the situation. But he did has he listen, he has three young kids or three kids, two of which are, moving on from high school. The other one's has a lot of sports and then his youngest is doing so I get it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I was uninvited and I was not
No, no, no. You were unvitated.
invitated.
Unvitated. It's
Yes.
a made up Green County word.
Yes, it is. And it's fine. I love you still, even though I was uninvited. Uh, yeah. All right.
Tuna,
Next,
tuna, tuna.
next subject.
Oh my God, I'm going to get bit.
No, you're not. So you brought up some stuff last night when we were talking. I had said I didn't want to do podcasts. You said, suck it the fuck up. I'm coming down there. And we went through some stuff and you were picking me apart, not in a bad way, but kind of like saying how I don't know. Explain to me your thought processes on what we talked about last night.
I think we are, and I think I am as well. I don't, this is certainly not unique to you. I think police officers and first responders are uniquely extra wired to go to the negative and to be down on themselves and down on situations because of a variety of reasons, which we'll get into. And you were kind of down. Obviously, and I think it has to do obviously with life factors and sleep and previous stuff going on in your life. That you tend to form kind of a negative view, and not you specifically. I meant humans do.
Well, yeah, but it was. I mean, it was me that was going through it. So essentially, in this case, it was me, which is fine. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting that you brought that up to me because I always try to ensure that anything that happens gets twisted to a positive. And I guess it doesn't matter because at some stage during that process, it's still coming across as a negative, right?
Yeah.
Because in order for it to be a negative, why do you have to change it to be a positive?
Right.
So I get what you're saying, and I never realized that. But I don't know. I think the way I divulge it or dissect it is I try to see um, things at their face value.
Hmm.
But I do also
I
go.
think that makes you. I think it makes you pragmatic too. Like you're pretty. Your approach to things is pretty pragmatic, and just like last night, you're like, oh, how you said, I think I'm going to bow out tomorrow, or whatever you said specifically. There's like, well, hold on there, happy camper. Let's discuss this situation, and um, I'm not going to let you go that soon, lover boy. We're gonna.
I didn't mean for the podcast in its entirety. I was just speaking specifically
No,
for that.
I know. I know it wasn't about the entire podcast. It was about today in particular, but you were kind of down, so we kind of discussed it, and it's something that you and I do quite well together all the time is we talk about things in great detail, and we share that relationship with like Al Napolitano, the same thing, and I talk to Tommy pretty frequently as well, who Jay just bashed on the podcast, and I I have that unique relationship with you where we can talk very candidly about a lot of the things that are going on in our lives. And you were a little bit down, so I brought up the topic of the topic of how our psychology and our backgrounds make us who we are. And not that you do it all the time, but I can tell when you're in that space.
Oh, I
I know
definitely,
you well enough to be able to pick
yeah,
that up.
yeah. I listen. I would love to like play devil's advocate here, and that's always what I do. I always try to. You call me the arguer, because I tend to argue. I just debate. I like to. I'm an overthinker at my core. If anything could describe me, is that fact that I'm an overthinker about everything in my
Yeah,
life. My relationship with my wife, my daughter, me as a human being,
yeah.
my relationships with the people in my life. We had a few arguments. Um, and when you get into a certain space, you shut the fuck down and you don't want to be. And I remember
I
specifically
I've been accused of that, yes, by
our
a lot
most
of people.
recent argument. I won't go into details, but uh, we kind of went back and forth, and you just didn't communicate. And I remember saying to you, "Stop acting like a fucking schoolgirl and fucking talk to me." For literally feel like I was going through a session, but like stop. Like we're there. I want to know my good, bad, and ugly. I want to know. Like
Mhm,
I'm okay with knowing that if I'm doing something too much or I'm not doing something enough, let me know because if I value enough of our relationship, I'm going
mhm.
to bring that up. Um, Conversely, if I don't, you're not going to get that out of me. So, um, see that as you may.
Yeah, it's probably a commentary on me as well that I've been accused of shutting down and not communicating, which isn't always, it's not the best thing to do that but I think some things like that come out as a byproduct of learned behaviors and, traumas and all the stuff that we've experienced. And sometimes I tend to just shut down, which isn't a good thing. And I apologize for doing that, to you and to the people that are in my life that matter.
Yeah, but then again, do you really have to apologize? Because what makes you is you, and it's if it's a fault of yours, then so be it. But it's interesting the way you brought that up is that you said there's been several accusations. I mean, they're not accusations, they're they're truths. You
They're
know what I mean?
truths.
That's the
Yeah, they are.
same as you pointing
They
out
are.
my faults, uh, and making light of it is all that you were doing. But it's just pointing out the fact like looking yourself in the mirror and just understanding who you are and being ultimately okay with that.
Yeah.
Good. You use the term good, right, or indifferent, but what's the term that you
Good, bad, or
good,
indifferent.
bad, or indifferent?
Yeah.
And I think that's uh, a very good phrase to use when viewing yourself. Good, bad, or indifferent. This is me. Take me who the fuck I am. Right?
Yes. So I've kind of likened you in many ways to Larry David in the show, um, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Have you ever seen the show on HBO?
I've heard of it
For the viewers in the show,
many times.
it's actually a freaking hilarious show. He's the guy who basically came up with the show Seinfeld, and he had a show on HBO. I'm sure many of you have seen it, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and basically it's an entire show about how he can be incredibly dickish to a lot of people from every interaction to restaurants to go getting dry cleaning to but what he does, it kind of comes out of love, right? Like it's a byproduct of him just being a sarcastic asshole, and he's hilarious in it, and you kind of fit the bill in that respect. That you are I encourage you to watch a couple episodes because you'll laugh your ass off and you'll go, oh my god,
It's
i
me.
I do this. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you brought it up, and we might have talked about this in an earlier podcast, but I'm the guy. My daughter gets so nervous when I do this, but I'm the guy. Two things: going in and out of stores, and hey, someone holds the door for me. This first thing, I thank you so much.
Yes.
Right? So if I hold the door open for somebody and they don't acknowledge, don't say thank you, don't look at me. I literally, ask. We can bring in my daughter. I will be like, no, no, you're welcome. I got it. Please don't you dare thank me. I'm just here because I have nothing else better to fucking do. And there's times,
Larry David, everyone.
and
Larry David,
there's
right
times
there.
where I
That's
literally go that far, and people are like, dude, what the fuck? I just didn't say thank you. They have their earphones on or something, and so it's like I do overreact, but like I don't know. Either way, I think it's a common courtesy that us as people, human beings, more so in the United States, but human beings as a whole, um, tend to forget.
yeah.
It's just, hey, man, someone's going out of their way to hold the door open for you. Thanks. Or to you called the vernacular of the young people these days. So I held the door open for a family, and um, young gentleman said, "Good looking out," and I said, "Yeah, no problem." So that means thank you.
Yeah, right.
In,
That's
in
their
the young
the young
in the
person's
in the young
vernacular.
in the young
Good
vernacular.
looking out.
Yes. So I'm also the dickhead that if I if we're at a restaurant, going in, like we did this,
Yep.
my wife out to eat, and we're in the I had to go back to the car and get something, or she went back to the car to get something, and I'm at the main door, and she's walking across the parking lot where there are probably 2 dozen people
Hmm.
or so, maybe a little bit less, but somewhere around 20, 24 people. And I yell, "Madeline, I'm over here." She immediately ducks her head. I'm one of those people. I just do stuff that's not common. I try to make a mockery of things, and I'm just a different person.
I've been the same person. I embarrass my kids. I love embarrassing my kids, actually.
It's fun,
Yeah, like
especially as you get
in the
older and the less that you can.
being in a public space with them, like in a pharmacy or a supermarket, and screaming out loud, "Did you get the cream for your rash?" Just do shit like that. So let's discuss neural pathways and neuroplasticity. I kind of brought this topic up yesterday, and then I kind of sent a YouTube link, and there's some good stuff out there about it. And for the viewers, if you're not familiar with it, it basically has to do with rewiring your brain to think positively, like I'm trying to do right now because I don't want this dog to bite my nutsack. So I'm kind of terrified of this dog. Thanks, Ray Hassan, for leaving your dog here. Given the conversation we had last night about this and how the topic is kind of has come up in the podcasts about going dark, have you ever heard about this? Have you ever discussed?
No, not specifically, but the concept of it makes complete sense.
Hmm.
Based on I did watch the video that you sent me. It's only a 3 minute video, but it makes complete sense. And it again, I'll overuse that word, but it does put things in perspective on the human brain. Um, Probably more and so more importantly, male, and how we view us, our lives, and our stature, in society, or in nature, if you
Hmm.
will. You know, it kind
Hmm.
of puts things interestingly put.
There's a, and again, we are not neurobiologists or scientists in any way, shape, or form, but having discussed it and having talked about it quite a bit, you know, a lot of people, there's a school of thought, and I forgot the article that I read it about evolutionary psychology and about how we are programmed to be naturally protective as males, that we are the hunter gatherers, and you know the traditional psychology behind hunter gatherers, and as a hunter gatherer society, that back in the day, that in the prehistory of mankind, that basically we subsisted in caves. We were the people who built fires, and we were built to protect in a primal fashion, to protect our offspring and to protect our young and to protect our families. Uh, men took that role, that and women were more of the protectors of the household and the children and the biological makeup of where that goes. There's a lot of people, and there's a school of thought that believes that our brains are naturally programmed to be hunter gatherers and to be protective of our flock, and that we are used to, because of living in caves, we're used to fighting animals. And back in the day when the saber-toothed tiger was around, and bears and animals that would kill us, we have that fight or flight response in terms of neurobiology, and that we are the people who, because of that, fast forward 10,000 years or 20,000 years, we are now in a modern society, and but yet our brains are programmed biologically to be back in the cave.
You know what's interesting about that, as you described the saber-tooth tiger, and let's just call it wildlife back then, if you will. One of the things the videos pointed out was, like, if you were ever back then attacked by wildlife, a lion, saber-tooth tiger, or something, and you happen to survive, one of your main functions was to, all right, I just was attacked. So how do I move on from this to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Hmm.
So problem solvers, overthinkers. Now you have to protect not only yourself but your family. How do you provide food? Where do you now have to be to stay away from them? So it becomes more and more interesting the more and more you start thinking about back then compared to how we think now, because it's it's unique the way the mind develops over time, for sure.
Yeah. Back then, the dangers of you were often the prey. Nowadays, biologically, we have so many different threats, from terroristic threats to crimes to a plane crashing into your house or suffering an injury or something in an auto accident, that now the hazards that were prehistoric differently then are much greater in certain respects. And there's some school of thought that suggests that we are naturally the negative thinkers that we are, because we have so many threats and we're constantly evolving and through evolution figuring out the better way to do what we need to do. And if you think about it, it makes sense, but programmatically in the brain as well, it leads you to a negative place, and you're automatically predisposed to think, oh, well, geez, why is this happening? Or what can I do to protect myself or protect my family? And from a first responder standpoint, the mental strengthening and the reengineering of your brain process, there's a thing called neural pathways. And the neural pathways are pathways in your brain that you can learn in, according to research, 21 days. It takes you 21 days to learn something new in a programmatic fashion. And the same could be said for our thought process. If we're feeling down, that we are able to adapt that process and learn new ways to overcome the depression or the anxiety.
I did see research stating exactly that, but it was referencing habit forming,
Hmm.
habit forming, which they said, a new habit is usually embedded in your brain within that 21 period of time. So it's interesting that that is the key time frame. I don't know what makes it that time frame, but you start digging into it and you see people like thinking like what you just described, people like your David Goggins,
Yeah,
how he goes from this fat, dumpy, low life in his mind
yeah,
that just played video games and had no drive for anything, how he was able to, just through pure attrition and pure evolving within his own self, to completely flip that switch. Almost switch, almost
script.
script or switch.
I think it's flipping
Flip
the
the
script.
script. He flipped the script, but
I
he
guess you
flipped
can
a
flip a
switch
switch
in his brain.
in his brain.
That's what I was trying to
I
say.
like this. Okay.
And he completely 180, almost
It's a great
drastic,
example.
almost drastically, to the point where now everything he views himself as being able to crush everything that he does,
Yeah.
and he puts that 110% effort in. And then in a small way, not in a David Goggins way, but in a small way, I try to view my life like that. Like there are times where I get down, like, man, I haven't done anything other than some dog training and stuff. And I know you'll say you do great things, and I do, and I love doing dog training. I love watching dogs and being around dogs. To be honest with you, almost 4 years now, and I haven't like done a full-time job. I don't mind it because financially it's fine. I'm good. We're good.
Hmm.
But it's that feeling that I need to do more,
Yeah.
and I want to do more because I want to be able to let my wife work less or provide more for my family or have more, not necessarily monetary things, because they're great, but just more. I want to provide more.
There's a unique tie-in. You just mentioned something that actually I think goes back in, and this is is not in our framework, but you just mentioned dogs and your your stepdaughter's profession down there with the business that she's in, which, without getting into detail, a lot of your family's um, work and love surrounds animals.
Yeah.
And the interesting part, dogs in particular, what was common with us in the caves 10,000, 20,000 years ago, dogs, because dogs protected you. They barked when the threat was there. They barked when another animal was out, right? So we find, I think, as humans, we find such comfort in dogs most of the time, unless you're a person who's been bitten by a dog, which I'm about to be probably later, or yeah, I'm not. Hopefully, she seems like she's doing okay with the toy, but looking at me with death, like I'm gonna chew you. I'm gonna chew right through your nutsack at some point. But the point I'm trying to make is that we've formed a partnership with dogs because the dogs provide us with protection. They bark. They provide us with love, and correspondingly, nowadays we provide them with food and love. and a roof over their head. So we have this symbiotic relationship with animals, in particular dogs, because of that role, right? So the thing, oddly enough, the things that we do in terms of mental strengthening and positive activities include dogs. I have two dogs. I wouldn't want to live without a dog because I love dogs more than probably 99.8% of the human population. And they just provide that much joy for me. Well, dogs also provide protection for you. They're also part of a positive experience a lot of the time for people, because people go home to their dogs. If they have anxiety, they help with anxiety. They help in a number of different fashions, especially dogs that are for people with special needs, right? Like the blind,
Therapy dogs. Yep.
therapy dogs. So, and it's something that you have a little experience with as well. So the fact that you brought it up really ties into the point of this framework very well, is that we're primitive beings with primitive thoughts that have evolved to less primitive thoughts, but we still have dogs and we still have a lot of the things that made us who we are. The evolutionary psychology part of it, the fact that we're wired to be a certain way, can be offset. And the studies, and this is why we wanted to talk about it in terms of police and first responder relationships, is that there's a lot of work out there that we can do to change our neural pathways through spending time with dogs, through exercising. The way you're a fucking beast when it comes to working out, right? This is the stuff that helps us get some of the negative thoughts out of our brain, and you can help forge those new neural pathways of positivity through exercise, through dogs, through healthy eating, through drinking a lot of water, which we both do. And it's super important, especially for the police officers and the firemen and the ER doctors and nurses out there, who all you deal with is death and sadness and horrible stuff. You have to force yourself to get out there, and you have to force yourself to be positive beings. And it's sometimes very, very challenging in our previous line of work.
Yeah. Um, so working out is huge for me, and it's it was huge for me when I worked, and even when I came back from Florida, I drove straight through. I think I told you this. We talked about it, and you're like, "Don't be fucking stupid." But I just wanted to get home, so I left at 4:30 in the morning, and I ended up getting here at just before 2 o'clock in the morning the next day. So it was 20 hours on the road. It only should have been 17, but it was 20 hours on the road. I came home, slept until about 7:30 in the morning, got up, cleaned up, and I went right to the gym. And I didn't want to because I was so tired, but there's nothing that makes me feel better. Well, there's some things that make me feel better, but not many things that make me feel better physically rather than going to the gym. And specifically for some reason, even though I'm not a great runner, but if I run to the point where like uh when you're done, you're like barely able to breathe.
Yep.
Um when I'm done and I completely recuperate, so probably halfway on my ride home, I get this adrenaline, this natural like feeling of like, man, I feel like I'm on
Yep.
top of the world. And like for me, so anything that either if I'm tired or if I had a bad day or like an argument with your wife or there's something that's going,
Hmm.
that is my outlet. I don't know. I guess it's healthy because the other ways that people deal with that is something that you put in a framework. Is us hardwired for some reason, maybe because of the profession that we're in, to go to the bottle and help the bottle soothe our issues,
Yeah.
help us deal with them. Because once you get to a certain point, drinking, it all gets muddy, it all gets
Yeah.
filtered out, and you
Sure.
can you can deal with it much easier. And I don't want to speak for you, but I'm rest assured that on more than one occasion, both of us have done those things. I know I have. I've made poor decisions drinking. I like to not, but and a lot of times it's stress induced for sure.
Sure.
Um, and I think that's something that the first responders, law enforcement, New York State troopers, sheriffs, all local agencies need to. I think when you put that in front of people,
Yeah.
it's one of the biggest things that
Yep.
people are deny they want to deny is the fact that they don't have a drinking problem. It's not a problem. It's not a problem until it's
Right.
not a problem until
Until you
I
get
had
jammed up at work, or you get into a car accident, or you're
or health issues
or health issues.
or relationship issues. The problems are so compounding and catastrophic.
Yeah.
I have people in my life that are, you know, close to me that abuse it.
Yeah.
And it sucks to see people rely on alcohol as a crutch. Yes, I drink. I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking. My
Correct.
opinion is I don't think there's anything wrong with um, specific drug use for purposes that are beneficial for you rather than just recreationally being,
Yeah.
you know, um, so I agree with that. Many people may disagree with me on that, but my after I retired, my mind changed on that because of when my daughter went through. She didn't use THC, but she used CBD oil when she was going through her chemo,
Yep.
and it's basically being assisted by that plant.
Hmm.
And the effects, because she was getting nauseous and she had a lot of anxiety.
Sure.
So the CBD oil, which was just, I forget how many, maybe 1 to 3 drops under her tongue
Hmm.
within 15 to 20 minutes, not only did the nausea
Yeah.
subside significantly, but her anxiety, and she was able to sleep. Luckily, we found that remedy relatively soon in the process, so she didn't have to suffer for long. So in instances like that, for sure,
Sure.
it's beneficial. But here we're speaking of it being used as a crutch to deal with issues that should be
and
dealt with.
and a lot of people use that as a crutch too. The gummies or cannabis, just like alcohol, it's misused, it's overused, and these things are depressants. And by no means are we trying to criticize people who smoke or drink.
No, no,
You do you. We're not trying to say that makes you a good or a bad person. Just when you're using too much of one thing all the time as a coping mechanism, it is, I think, by the very nature and the definition, I think it's unhealthy. So we're advocating for positive things and positive methods um, and as a way to supplement your life to make your life a little bit better. In particular, first responders, because we see, you know, 200 times more critical incidents than the average person in their lifetime. And as a result of seeing those critical incidents, it gets back into that discussion of trauma and trauma awareness and how it affects your brain. Well, one of the things that we're advocating, and this is why we want to have the podcast, is that healthy methods in life, working out, getting exercise, getting those endorphins, helping your cardiovascular system, strengthening your muscles, drinking lots of water. We're not saying don't drink your alcohol. We're not saying don't smoke your cannabis. Do what is right for you in combination with what your doctor would say or your physician or your clinicians. But to try and live a healthier lifestyle, it's something that Jay and I both have done. He's nuclear at it. I'm not as good, and I'm working on getting better at it in terms of the regimented exercise. But I still consider myself pretty healthy after the cardiac issue that I had, that I discovered it was not a cardiac issue. You folks should do what you think you need to do is best for you, and but we're just saying find healthy alternatives and find healthy ways, methods to change those neural pathways. And drinking booze all the time is not good. And I'll be the first to admit that, like Dave, when Trooper Dave Lane died, I buried my face in a bottle, and it wasn't a healthy thing to do. And it didn't help my marriage. It didn't at the time. It didn't help my life at all. But it's what we do.
yeah.
That's what you know.
It's and so and again, going to your point is you do you, but just if you at least do your research, um, doctors, yes, but I found this thing right here, you have to be careful
Yeah.
because it's twofold. Because there's disinformation on there, just like
Yeah.
within politics and everything, but there's also good information.
Right.
And I guess it goes back to like you can choose what you want to listen to or um, read, but there is some great information on all this stuff that we discussed. And one thing, as
Doctor
you,
Doctor Google can be good, but it also could be bad because you're
that's good.
looking at
Sure,
Doctor Google, you're going neural pathways,
yeah,
then the next thing you know, you're on
exactly.
Pornhub for 2 hours. So be careful with that. Obviously, we're
Not sure that that translates exactly, but I could see how that in some of us as cops would happen.
yeah,
But going back to like even the drug use, like a marijuana, and we could say the THC, it's not really bad or it's not. But here, my problem is my scariest thought process when it comes to marijuana is that we should smoke. No, is that is that it could be a, I'll use the old adage is it could be a gateway.
yeah,
So if you have any
yep,
type of addicting personality traits within your body, that could be the gateway to get you on something that's not as forgiving
yeah, sure,
and
absolutely.
without as many catastrophic results or with more catastrophic
Yeah.
results. But I just wanted to bring that up is that, yeah, these things are great on the surface or could be, but just not abusing anything.
My mom's mom, my grandmother, I've heard this story a couple of times when she was dying of cancer back in the mid 70s. My parents, who I've both identified are prior hippies back in the day, uh, they brought her some cannabis into the hospital, and they actually got the doctor at the time allowed her to have some cannabis, and it was the only thing that made my grandmother feel okay and not nauseous at the time. And I've heard this story from a couple of different people that that was a thing. So we're not saying yay or nay about substance. We're just saying be very careful about substance use disorder, substance abuses. So
We could be like Joe Rogan and just um, promote acid, mushrooms, coke,
Adderall,
Adderall. I
Adderall.
was
Yeah,
just
he's
listening
a
to
big
him
Adderall
talking about
proponent.
he was interviewing Dave Portnoy, and Dave
Yeah.
Portnoy relies on Adderall to get him through his interviews slash his day to keep him sharp and on point. And then Shane Gillis, he just interviewed, and Shane was like, "Yeah, I I use Adderall." He said he did it twice to where he was at like the Super Bowl and another big sporting event,
Hmm.
and he was able to get blackout drunk and completely act and look normal, but he had no clue he was.
Wow.
That's what Adderall did for him. So yeah, make pretend like you didn't. If you're an alcoholic, don't just listen to the last minute or so what I said, because that's probably not a good road to go down.
Yeah. No.
But what the Joe Rogan podcast at times, I don't think he advocates for. I think he just advocates for keeping your eyes open as to what is out there.
Yeah, a lot of people now have pegged him as very conservative, but I really think in many respects he's very libertarian. Like without getting political, he really is very. He advocates for people choosing what they want to do, especially with the whole COVID
Yeah,
thing too.
yeah,
Back in the day, because he really contested a lot of what was being said. And we're not, again, we're not making a political statement, but we're saying he does say that. Like
yeah.
Adderall, he said he does Adderall all the time by prescription. And for me, I can't ever envision doing that to get by. You know what I mean? That's
No, but
I do a protein shake in the morning that you and I have discussed, and every morning I have wild blueberries in it, a banana. I put some pomegranate juice and at least a cup and a half of water, and it's my. I won't give the name of the manufacturer. You can reach out to me privately if you want to know what I take every morning. But it's my breakfast and my lead into lunch. I don't eat lunch until 1:32. Um, but this breakfast drink that I have every morning is I've become kind of addicted to it because it's all natural stuff. It's got 5 different types of mushrooms in it, which you and I have talked about too,
yeah,
in terms of like mental fortitude and some of the things that really helps you kind of focus. I find the days I don't have this breakfast drink, which is a vegetable-based protein drink with all sorts of vitamins, the days I don't have it, my brain just does not function the same way that it normally does.
I must have talked to you a few of those days when you didn't drink it because
Fuck you.
you were off a few days. Just fucking with you, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm not really fucking with
Yeah, it's the truth though. If you get into a pattern, like I'm eating less carbohydrates, maintaining and bent. I go every night before I go to bed. I have a program that I put on every night, and people, you're gonna laugh when I say this, but every night when I go to bed, I put
you.
something on that was in the '90s. We won't judge because of that. My kids love the Teletubbies, and
That's why I said it.
yeah, it's this aerial video of what?
Areola.
No,
Oh,
aerial.
oh, I thought you said
It's
areola.
aerial video that's narrated by this British guy, and it's whatever country. It's a I forgot what it is. Flights over the world or whatever it is, and it's just this positive thing. And every night I watch it, and I go to sleep because it's like this positive thing. First thing in the morning, what I've been trying to do every morning is I get up and I try to watch something comedy related. Because if you start your day off by laughing or smiling, the trajectory is already there. And then I get into work and I get incredibly annoyed, and it changes everything. But at least I started off the right
Soon,
way.
soon enough.
Soon enough.
Soon enough.
Yeah.
Um, our topics have been I like this today. The topics have been interesting. And so thank you for making me do it. You didn't make me do it, but you helped me want to do it more. So thank you. What I did do both on my trip down to Florida and back, it was almost 100% podcasts. And although I don't know, reflecting back on this episode, I think there's some educational value to it. But the ones that I list, Sean Ryan and Joe Rogan, Tom Segura, and the other one are more comedic,
Hmm.
but there was some very educational stuff, and it does. a lot for me, to listen to this stuff to get your brain going.
Hmm.
Joe Rogan had a guy on there. I forget his name. I'm not good with that. That's something I have to get better on. But
Do you
he,
watch on Spotify? What's your podcast platform?
I vary from Spotify to YouTube depending on who it is.
Yeah.
But these specifically were Spotify. They seem to stream better or whatever.
Hmm.
But the rain the organization's called Rainmaker. You ever hear they
Hmm.
cloud it's a legit company that's they cloud seed. I know it's a different topic, but you can you've listened to the episode. I think it's called the CEO of Rainmaker, who is actually looking for help. He's doing it mostly. A bunch of states have banned it. I think Florida, Texas, um, but there's 6 Midwest states that are proponents of it. Because basically, he flies drones up into these. It's this whole scientific thing where they can radar a cloud and see what clouds should be able to produce based on moisture values, and then they basically seed it with particles. And in the cloud, they're frozen. So these particles, the frozen gets down and it drops, and depending on the time of year, it'll either be rain or snow. So they're able to, on an extremely small scale, I believe he said, 500 thousand square feet. But I mean, but speaking or whatever it was a relatively small scale. But they predict the trajectory of the cloud. They go up there with their drones and they seed it, and they know within 15 minutes or so it's going to be raining.
Wow, that's
You
wild.
so for something like that to actually think, and as a matter of fact, they referenced, which I thought was phenomenally weird, the Vietnam War. Um, it was first tested, this technology, in the Vietnam War, and worked almost too good because
Hmm.
the Viet Cong, their thoughts were to saturate the area in Vietnam so that the Viet Cong would have difficulties traversing the area because it was so muddy. But that was the first time it was actually introduced was in Vietnam War.
I have a question. How the fuck did we get on the topic of cloud seeding?
I brought it up because I said that we talked about everything, and I just wanted to bring
It's an
something up.
interesting topic.
Yeah, it
I've
is.
never heard of this.
Yeah, I know. Me neither. That's when I
Yeah.
was listening to it. I was like, what the where I'm living in a fucking
I got to
and
get
that's
this in
why I
paper.
wanna that's why I like the podcast is because more so than not, I feel like I'm so not necessarily uneducated, but in a fucking pint
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
And like and there's so much that we're missing in a society if you just go out there and listen. Again, that whole thing of taking it with a grain of salt because some people um push stuff agenda based.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you don't
Right.
know how true it is. But this guy didn't seem to be agenda based because, as a matter of fact, he was talking about how he's been getting a lot of pushback because people, Joe Rogan talked about, well, what about, it might have been Sean Ryan. I forget. But he talked about, like, all right, well, what happens if you overseed an area and it floods it out and there's a catastrophic result, which we saw one of the countries on the other side of the country with world. I forget where it was, but this recently happened to where there was a someone else over there cloud seeded in it and it flooded the
And
area.
they can definitely prove that the cloud seeding is
He
cause and effect, and that they seed this cloud, and then it turns.
97% success rate is what don't quote me on that, but it was mid to high 90s
But how do
success
they
rate.
know that it wasn't going to rain already, and that it's not like a
That
positive
was another
confirmation bias?
that was another point that was brought up. Um, it's due their technology that they have. They know that a certain cloud has a certain amount of precipitation or moisture in it, but not enough
Hmm,
to actually disperse and come down.
that's
So
so
what they
cool.
do with this cloud seeding is they kind of like, hey, you have no choice. And according to him, on his scale in the United States, um, it's at a smaller scale than creating monsoons or
They
like flooding
probably only certain types of clouds are
for sure.
like
Yep.
cumulonimbus clouds.
Yeah, he referenced a few the clouds that are able to be seeded, and then he also stated like some of
Yeah,
the other ones you're never, you can't just
right.
randomly throw it in a cloud that's not moisture based.
That's pretty wild. It's
It's
pretty. It's wild. I can remember the name cumulonimbus clouds, but I can't remember the name of the person I met 7 minutes ago. It's funny how the brain works.
it is.
Very, very, very odd. But
What else?
well, I'm happy Ray's dog hasn't chewed me to death. That's a positive,
Yeah,
and she's actually being pretty cool
she
right
is being
now.
good. That's because she's in presence of me, once again.
Thank goodness for you. Thank goodness you're here to protect me. And
She did look like she wanted to snap at your left testicle when you
yeah,
first came
oh
in.
yeah,
I will
absolutely.
say that. And Carm did this again.
And everything went like this, folks.
I said, Carm, just be normal. And I was like, hold on a second. I don't know if that's a good choice.
No,
Act,
the dog would bite me
I was like,
extra.
just act normal. How about that?
Yes.
Try to act normal. But no, it's a pretty good podcast.
Well,
I'm happy.
the dog calmed down though, because the dog can, she can pick up on good humans, and I'm a good human being, a positive, peaceful human being,
There's that. And there's
right?
also the bone that she's
There's
chewing
also the
on
bone that's just
that's
chewing on.
occupying her right now. But let's go with the fact that she likes you. Sure.
Sure.
But no, this was a good episode. I appreciate you making the drive.
Yeah.
I still want we still
We're
want
gonna try to, I'm gonna try to do this a little bit more in person stuff too, um, as the summer goes on, and I'm gonna hopefully be having a little bit more time on my hands
yes.
in August. So,
I think it brings another dynamic. And me personally,
because you
I
actually love me,
yeah, I
say
do.
it.
I
Say
do.
you love
I
me.
like you a lot. No, remember, ditto.
Say I love
I
you.
love you, ditto, ditto.
Yes.
That makes me feel relatively uncomfortable. But
As my as my buddy at work would say, apple juice is a code word for something else. So that's a whole other discussion.
well, yes, I like seeing you, and I like actually having a stable internet connection, so I don't have to worry about not hearing you and seeing you fizzle away as you're talking. You go into like 17 different
Let's
lines.
talk about my face of utter discontent during the Tim Diamond episode
Oh yeah.
of the podcast, where I lost my connection, had to scramble upstairs in my underwear to reestablish another connection. How's that for a visual? Anyway, going upstairs and then having to log back in, completely just everything melted down. And thank God you carried the whole thing, and you guys were laughing. After we concluded that podcast, you guys were laughing hysterically at me
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
which was even more entertaining. But
Oh, did you see what he posted? The election. So Tim Diamond did not win for
yep,
Sullivan County Sheriff.
we're remaining impartial.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I reached out to Mike Schiff, the current sheriff, a bunch of times. I don't know him. I won't say this to speak badly of him. It was just something that I felt was completely unprofessional. I don't think that I should have a special place and hold a higher standard than anybody else. But I reached out to him, explained to him I was a retired trooper just like him, and I had already interviewed Tim, and I just wanted to get his opinion on the election, where he wanted to take Sullivan County. If there was anything that he did not want to discuss, if he just wanted to discuss certain things, anything. So, and I explained this already. I went on all the available platforms to reach out to him. Mine is actually walking in physically and trying to see him, and each step of the way I was shot down. So it's only that to point that out. And Tim Diamond, his campaign slash him posted some of the results and how they came in, and there's definitely some interesting factors on who voted and how the votes came in. So I don't know.
I said I didn't see that part, and I
Yeah,
mean, ultimately, when you talk about the current sheriff, he has the prerogative. He doesn't want to answer. He doesn't
sure,
want to answer, and ultimately,
absolutely,
I'll say this: no one fucking cares. So
yeah.
ultimately, he didn't want to be on. He didn't want it.
Yeah,
It's his prerogative.
each their own.
I like Tim, and Tim's been a friend for years, and I'm sad for him that he didn't win the election, but ultimately, he's going to do fine whatever he does. So
My comment to him when he posted, I was like, hold your head up high.
yeah.
You did an amazing job and you were extremely professional every step of the way. He didn't bash. He tried to put forward the information that he thought was valuable to the election. And that's the way I see it. Many people don't see it that way.
I say I didn't follow the operational schematic of what he did. I just know that he was running, and we
Yeah.
were trying to be a throughput or a voice for him, and then ultimately his competitor as well. And um, I had my personal feelings about it, obviously, that I will leave out of it. But I think where my loyalties
Oh, yeah. So
lies. Where they
episode
go.
17 is concluding. Once again, I appreciate every last viewer. We lost a YouTube viewer yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. I'm gonna be done with this view shit. I'm gonna post shit. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah,
So
like
if I don't answer, or yeah, if I don't answer, I don't answer. I'm gonna do more of like,
Answer some of them. What are you talking
I
about?
know, I'm just saying if I don't answer,
He's a dick.
I'm gonna give it about a week or so before I start checking comments and all that shit. So it's not because I don't care. I don't fucking care. No one fucking. It's that no one fucking cares. But no, I'll get on there and try to answer stuff. We do want more guests to reach out, potential guests to reach out.
We were going to try to have somebody this week who owns who's retired law enforcement who owns a shooting range where police and military have done some training. We're going to have him on at some point. I also want to have Terry Joe on.
Yeah.
The dog didn't bite my foot.
Nope.
Even though the dog is right on my foot.
Terry Joe.
Terry Joe Gallagher.
Yes.
Yep. Communication specialist,
Yep.
retired from the state police. She's a pisser. Everybody will love her. So we're going to have her on at some point. We have people lined up. We're just, this week is summer months. We're kind of going at the will of our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
also not only for guests, reach out please, but topics. Carm is extremely good at coming up with topics and framework. But if you have something, I know Chuck Jablonski, we didn't forget about you. And he had some healthcare concerns that he wanted to talk about as far as nurses and people within the healthcare profession deal with. And that's a good episode to talk about. But stuff like that, coming up with potential topics for us to discuss. And I also wanted to mention to you, I want to try it, doing it while we record, but maybe going live on one or two, either Facebook or TikTok or one of these platforms to where I could set a phone up and then we can live and we could actually see comments coming in or questions coming in so we can
I
answer
love it. That's a great idea.
spur of the moment.
Yeah.
And people will more likely put us in awkward positions.
Get some real police haters. That'll be a great conversation.
Be awesome. But yeah, that seems like a good plan. Again, thank you guys so much.
What else? There's got to be something else you want to talk about before we go.
Oh, you just want to keep this rolling, huh?
I'm scared to get up right now. That's why I want to.
Oh, Scarlett's not gonna fuck with you.
Scarlett's gonna. Oh,
what, Scar? Come here. Come here. Come here. So this is Scarlett. Again, Ray Hassan's dog. She was good the whole time.
Oh my God, I'm gonna die.
Karn's shitting his pants. So
retired state police dog, right?
No,
that wasn't.
Don't. You don't know. No,
I don't know.
No,
I have no idea.
Not that. He's been no. She's not a former canine. She's a little chunky to be former canine. No, she's a great dog, but she's not former canine. She's a great dog. Like, share,
Scarlett, he's being judgy, right?
Like, share, comment, follow. Do all that stuff, please. We much appreciate every last one of the 416 of you that are left.
What, we got a couple of thousand views on.
Yeah, we're up there. We're getting there. I'm fine. I'm not. I'm gonna go back into my rabbit hole. Thank you guys. We love you.
Love you all. Peace out.